Studio girls! Congratulations on your first pair of pointe shoes. I'm so proud of you that you've worked very hard to accomplish your goal. And so I'm putting together this video for you so you know how to sew and tie your shoes for your first class. Alright, let's get started. So in front of me right now, make sure you have everything that you're going to need. You have your pointe shoes, your brand new pointe shoes. You have a pin, either matches or a lighter, scissors, a thread with either bun head thread in it or dental floss. You don't want to use regular thread, and the reason is this you put a lot of pressure on your ribbons, and if this thread gets old and tired, it will break off really fast, and there's nothing worse than being in the middle of an amazing class and having your thread break. So dental floss, white dental floss, not green, or bun head, and it comes in a tube, and you can buy it at a retail store, or a dance retail store. You can also buy it online. Dental floss works just as well, and it's got that wax on it, so it's easy to sew with. All right, then I'm going to just stick this right here. Then you have your ribbons and your elastic. Okay, so very first thing first, but this is a pair of my old shoes, and we're going to talk about these in a second. Very first thing, before you do anything, you're going to want to get your pen and point your foot. So this is the natural arch of my foot, and right here, I'm going to draw a line on the natural arch of my foot. So my foot comes up to here, and then from here is where the angle starts to change. The goal is to try to get my shoe to support this part of my foot. You might have a better banana foot. You might be working towards this. This is just kind of where it goes. So just write it on here. Then get your brand new pair of shoes out, put them on, and you're going to want to draw a line from where that is to where this is on the inside of your shoe, right there. That's where mine is. Boom, boom. And then also on your arch, right there. So I did it on this pair. Boom, right there. Draw right on that arch. So go ahead and do that to both pairs of shoes before you get started. The reason you want that this is important is because you need as much support as you could possibly get in these brand new shoes. So once you've done that, let's go ahead and get our ribbons. So I'm going to, this is in one long one. I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half, like this. I'm going to put one away because I'm only going to show you one string now. And then you're going to take this one, cut it again. So now we have four ribbons for our shoe. You want to take a lighter and light the very end of your ribbon just so it melts a little bit so it doesn't fray. You want to really make sure you get that nice and melted on both ends. So it's nice and melted, and it'll be warm for a little bit, but it will be fine after that. That way you don't have to worry about it fraying and resewing. Okay, so once we're here, you're going to want to sew this in right where your arch is in an angle so that when my shoe is on, I'm going to angle it up towards my foot this way. You want to be careful about the angle. This may take a little bit because you don't want a bunching like this when you're standing flat. When you're standing on point, it will be right. So you want to make sure that you get it flat. You get it at the right angle when you're flat, up and over that ankle. So then when you go on point, it's nice and supportive. Okay, so you can take that ribbon, and you're going to take this end, and you're going to fold it like this. About this much of that ribbon gets folded. And once you find that angle, go ahead and stick it in, and then start sewing it. So I stick it through the back of this, and it takes some muscle. This isn't easy. And the rite of passage is that a dancer sews her own shoes. Parents don't sew shoes because if it feels wrong or something's wrong with it, you know exactly how to fix it. You'll get to a point where it will take you 10-15 minutes to sew a pair of pointe shoes. So you keep going all the way around, all the way down and around. I'm going to show you this one. This is one that I did long time ago, but it's not pretty. It's just nice and fast. I started here and I went all the way around, and then on the outside, it's not a big mess. You can't even see the stitches on the outside. This shows you I've done it. It's taken me a few years to get it that way, but I knew what I was doing. Okay, so once you get that sewn in, go ahead and take your other ribbon. I'm going to show you when you fold it over, you want to make sure, well, we're going on the outside, so you fold it like this and then put it in on the inside. Make sure that when you sew, that you don't sew the casing right here. You want to make sure that the reason that we're folding it over is to reinforce it. So if for something it pulls or something happens, you're not going to lose the whole entire ribbon. And then as you sew it, you need to make sure that you don't sew the casing at all, because this is going to help your drawstring later. So make sure you leave enough room for that right there. Okay. So once you've sewn in both ribbons on both sides, then we're going to do your elastic. So go ahead and take your elastic, put your shoe back on, take your elastic, and you need to make sure that it goes around this part of the ankle. It's going to take this, your first pair of pointe shoes is a learning experience. So you're going to figure out how much tighter you need it or less tight you need it. And then you sew it about one thumb width from the back. So boom, boom. This is where I'm going to take my elastic and sew it in about right there. Then put your shoe on and figure out how tight you need it, and then cut it off and then sew it on the other side. So it will be about like this, a loop around here. So I'm going to put on one of my super old shoes for a second. And you can see where this is. It goes right there. Now this ribbon is too far back, so just ignore this, but this one's about right. It's about a thumb, and I knew from years and years of dancing that I liked it a little bit farther out. I would suggest starting in farther because you want more support, and then as you become more mature in your dancing, you can make adjustments for yourself. But see how it fits right over my ankle right here. So that is that. Okay, so now once you have your pointe shoe, both of them sewn, you have your elastic on and your ribbons on. So you're going to take your shoe, and remember we made this line right here. You're going to start breaking it in. So let's talk about breaking it in for a second. When you get your brand new pointe shoes, they are super round in the box, and your feet are not super round. So you want to break them in right away. So you want to just stand on it. Go ahead and put your heel on it and spend some time pushing on that shoe. It's okay, you can put weight on it. It's totally fine for it to break. I obviously haven't spent a whole lot of time breaking that shoe, but even now you can see how much more flat this is than this one, and eventually it will get as flat as you need it. Obviously, I've danced in these for quite a while, and I know exactly how to break in these shoes, so it was like this at one point. Okay, so that's the first point. The second one is you want to break it in at this mark. Remember we talked about having support through the arch right here? We want to try to make this shoe support this arch. So I know that this is where my heel needs to go, so I'm going to break it to try to make it into a curve. So I'm going to push down all my weight up and over on that. You don't want to make sure that you don't crack your shank. So you want to put just enough pressure on, take some muscle to break it. So I'm going to show you really quick on this one. When you pull this out, go ahead and pull the liner off, and you can pull this out. This is called your shank. This thing is right here is your shank. And if you pull them away from each other, it will actually help you in the long run. If you have a little nail right here, go ahead and get your hammer and pull that nail out. It's totally fine. And we're going to break this enough that when I put the shoe back on, so you can see now there's like a little bit of curve here. When I put the shoe back on, it now supports that a little bit more and pulls up. We're doing this to try to bend our shank a little bit. As you get older, you may want to go ahead and cut that shank right there. I have friends who have little saws in their dance bags and they cut their shanks as they go. Don't do that yet. You're not ready for that yet because you need as much support as you can possibly get. Eventually, once your feet are strong enough, then you can cut that shank. But right now, that's not the option. So just try to bend it, mold it to make where you need to go. And you can probably do this in the beginning of every class for a while just to make sure that you're going to get the support you need in that shoe. So if your shoe looks like this instead of this, that's great. You are now ready for class. All right. So now let's put the shoe back on. I'm going to teach you how to tie it. So pull the drawstrings out your first time. Put it on and make sure that there's not a huge gap here. So you're going to want to pull this at a place where you, when you go on elevate, there's going to be a little bit of a gap. That's okay, but you don't want it to be just super gapping the whole time. So every foot is different. So figure out where your gap is. So pull it in, double tie it, 1, 2, and then hide it in your shoe. I never want to see it again. Never want to see that in class popping out. It's unprofessional. It's not pretty. If you ever watch any professional ballerinas, you'll never see that. They get rid of it. Okay, so now this is going to be moved forward for you for a while, or forever. This is not in line with my arch, and that's okay. I danced for a really long time, so in theory, pretend that yours is a little bit far forward as we pull this up. So I'm going to pull this up as much as I can. See how as I pulled this, it is supporting my arch. It's pushing up to my arch. If we do it just like this, it's going to give a little gapping in there. Also, the angle will matter too. So as you tie your shoe, make sure you pull that up because you want this shoe to support your foot. All right, pull it up and around. This is probably the most important part, is pulling it nice and tight. Then it goes around over your ankle bone, and then hang it out on the inside. Then you pull up from the outside, cross it over. It goes up over your ankle bone, around, underneath the other one, back around. So now we're good to go. You want to make sure that you're flexing your foot a little bit through this so you are not going to suffocate your ankle. I don't have tights on, so my skin's not sticking in there as tight as I need it to. So, okay, so there we go. So now we're going to do a square knot. So right over left, under. Left over right, under. And this makes a square knot. So see how flat and square that is? It's not a bunch, it's a nice flat square. Now I'm going to take this knot and it goes under my string here. Push it under. Now there's a thing called badump badump. I didn't make it up. That's really truly what it's called. And see how messed up this is back here? If you take your finger and you just go 1, 2, it flattens it out, and then you can pull it underneath farther. Once you get this nice and tight, then you tuck it back up, and you tuck all of your strings back up with it and cover it up nice and tight. Now, this knot you need to make sure that it doesn't go on the bone that's right here, and it doesn't go on the tendon. There's a little soft spot right in between the two that your bun goes. If you get it on the bone, you can start creating bone spurs. Not fun. And if you get it on the Achilles, then that starts Achilles tendonitis in your Achilles. So right there is right where it needs to go. It's very important that you never, ever, ever see your knot. It's kind of like the grand finale of putting on your pointe shoes. It shows that you have discipline, it shows that you know what you're doing, and then you never have to worry it again. So then you have this beautiful line, and you are ready to go on pointe. Make sure that also when you're at home, that now that you have your pointe shoes on and you love them, you're really not quite ready to go on pointe yet. We still have to build these muscles now. You've never been on pointe before. It's going to be fun. It's going to be tempting to want to run around the house with them on. You're more than welcome to run around the house with them on without going on pointe. Make sure if you do go on pointe, because I know you want to, that you have 2 hands holding something and that you're going on 2 feet at a time. The very first thing to do would be probably stand in first position, nice and tight, squeeze your peaches, and roll up to those pointe shoes and roll back down. And you could do those a few times. I would highly suggest just leaving it at that. Just doing that for your first pair of pointe shoes. Congratulations. If you have any questions, ask us on Monday, and we'll see you in class.